Hello, everyone. I'm Trai Cartwright, and this is the Johnson County Library's Writers Conference 2024. Yay! We're going to do 4 video modules, and then on November 15th, we all get together at the library and we share what we've done over the course of these modules. If you've had a chance to look at my bio, you'll see that I have a long and storied past with stories, lots and lots of Hollywood screenwriting, but also lots and lots of fiction writing as well. So it's my pleasure to kind of fuse these two mediums together and bring you some of the best lessons that I found in looking for your voice. And that is what this particular track is called, is Finding Your Voice. So in module 1, we are just going to listen to some examples of voice. And then in 3, 4, and 5, we're going to pull them apart and really start listening and paying attention to how exactly writers manage to connect with what ended up being the best possible voice for the books that they wrote. So yeah, let's get started, shall we? There is homework. It is, of course, optional, but hey, why not? It's a writers' conference. You might as well take some advantage here, and we'll talk about that at the end. Okay, so let's see. Let's just get started. Everybody has a different definition of what voice is. Some people just say, oh, it's your natural conversational voice. And for some books, that can be really, really effective, especially like contemporary dramas, for example, or if you're a particularly funny person, if you write comedy, oh my God, you win the sweepstakes if you automatically speak, I don't know, in jokes and make people laugh a lot, and you can just bring that right on over to your book. But is that going to be the end of the conversation? Not at all. To me, what voice is it's the differentiation of the way one writer sounds versus another. It's how it's the delivery system, which we'll be unpacking for 4 modules, of the sound of the world. It helps tell the story because the sound, literally the descriptions, it sounds right for this world. If you were to take 3, well, actually, do this instead. Have a friend of yours, pull 3 random books off of your bookshelf. The assumption is that these books are probably things that you love. And then don't look at who the author is or what the title of the book is, or even what the cover of the book is, because let's face it, the cover of a book tells you a lot about what to expect inside. And just have them start reading. And if you can tell that this is, I don't know, Stephen King, or this is Jane Austen, or any other of your favorite authors, then that's the voice, guys. That's the voice. It's what lets you know that it is this distinct writer. The hope is, of course, that we don't write just one book, that we write lots and lots of stories. I mean, some of us will, some of us won't. That's fine too. Some of us are just one book people, perfectly okay. But if you are looking to have a career in writing, then the tendency is going to be that you're going to find a voice that is consistent across all of your books, but modulates based on things like genre. I go to Stephen King because he has written like a Western, and it's still Stephen King, but it also sounds like a Western when you read it. Looking at other authors who cross the tone that comes out in different genres, it's still them, but they are tweaking it based on the universe, sort of reader's expectation of what the universe is. So that's what we're gonna explore, breaking it down into very doable pieces and parts, and then you getting an opportunity to play with it. First thing I think I would like to do is to talk about the different kinds of voices. Um, there's the extremely stylized voice that is really playing with words a lot. You're watching the writer write. And they're kind of fantastic at it, and that's part of the joy. One of my favorite authors is Tom Robbins, and he absolutely has an extreme high style voice. Um, There's the historic voice. So if you are, reading somebody who does a lot of history stuff, or even, sci-fi or fantasy, maybe we can bump this into calling it like a world building voice. It's still going to be correct for whatever story they're telling. So if it's historic, it's the right time, it's the right place. Or if it's fantasy or if it's sci-fi, again, it sounds right for that universe. So they are tweaking things in order to transport you to that world. So a lot of world building in that. We already talked about the comedic voice, where oftentimes it can get a little meta, like it can break up the what do you call it? The suspension of disbelief, right? Where it can kind of punch through and be speaking directly to the audience. Douglas Adams is amazing at this. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He was always kind of riffing off of the audience at home. A lot of wink, wink going on. There are absolutely lots of people who try to capture the spoken voice. And that I think is where a lot of modern commercial fiction is, where there's not a lot of effort being put into. Well, let me reframe that. It is effortless to read their stuff because they're just getting out of the way of the story. And it's almost like sitting down and having somebody say, "Oh my gosh, you're not going to believe what happened to me this summer," and then having them speak it to you. So these are different kinds of voices. You may already be aware of what you like to play with. We can, and we will in Module 2, we'll talk about drama, but it's also bending like the emotional ride of things and using the voice to deliver on that as well. Oh boy, so much to cover. It's going to be lots of fun. But first, let's just go ahead and listen to some examples. That's all we're doing in this first module, is I'm going to read you some different examples of writing so that you can start training your ear to like hear the voice. So the first one, oh, why did I start with this one? This one's tricky. This is one long sentence, so brace yourself, folks. Here we go. The surface slit itself further into a wide, ripping smile across the entire surface of the gigantic pair. As the blind witch gabbled, moaned, blistered her lips, shrieked in protest, and Will hung fast, hands gripped to wicker, kicking legs as the balloon wailed, whiffled, guzzled, mourned its own swift gaseous death, as dungeon air raved out, as dragon breath gushed forth, and the bag, thus driven, retreated up. Oh, yeah. Ray Bradbury, very distinctive, very performative, very lyrical, and very fantastic. This is from a book which, if you haven't read, oh my gosh, you'll love it. It's called Something Wicked This Way Comes. He's, in my book, one of the top folks to study for voice because he's not afraid to invent words. He's not afraid to do these really, really long run-on sentences because it's right for capturing the action of the moment, which if you were able to discern here, this is a hot air balloon being piloted by the blind witch, and there's a boy who is clinging to the outside of the basket, and the balloon is crashing. Now, he could have just come right out and just said that, but wasn't it more fun the way he did it? All right, this one is much shorter. Big Boy was bringing new meaning to the word destruction in my cozy, tasteful apartment. I pulled another can of beer out of the refrigerator and sat back to watch the fireworks. This is a translation from another one of my favorite authors is Haruki Murakami, and this book is called The Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World. Also, sensational writing in here. He actually uses two very distinct, very distinct voices because he's got two storylines and two worlds running together, and you have no idea how these two things fit together until the very end of the book. Oh, a very satisfying read. Also very fantastical, but if you were kind of tuning your ear to this one, it's noir. He actually captures, he's Japanese, he's writing in Japanese, and then we have the translation, but he understands the tropes of noir well enough to be able to infuse his writing with that. So it's futuristic, so it's fantastical, but it's also noir. So I guess it would qualify as like neo-noir. Super fun. Go have a look at that one. Let's see here. This is well, I'll read it first, then I'll tell you. Her curses are bitter not only because he is up on the caravan and she down on the grass, but also because what was once faint and without name, no more than a shudder, a flush, a short spell of lightheadedness and intestinal fluttering, now feels like a wound. This is Sarah Shunyin Bynum, and the book it's she's a poet, but she wrote a book called Madeline is Sleeping, and you can feel it. There's just a lot of poetry in her language. She's capturing the moment where somebody who has fallen in love is also realizing that this love is going to cause her a lot of pain, and to use this great list of descriptors, the physical sensations of that love, really brings us into the moment. There's a lot of immediacy in her poetry, so because sometimes poetic writing can be really abstract, but hers tends to be very grounded, in the actual moment to moment human experience. A completely different experience in listening to her stuff. All right. I think we're going to do like three or four more. Oh, yeah. Let's do this one. Why do I keep mentioning, inserting, as it may seem, myself into this story? Because I'm trying to wrest readable material from a 19-year-old girl who is very, very nice. I'm trying to build a story that not only unlocks the velveteen secrets of her teenager's heart, but also contains action, development, along with, God help me, some intimation of meaning. But my problem is this: Kitty's a snooze. This is Jennifer Egan, and her book is Pulitzer Prize winning A Visit from the Goon Squad. Y'all, she changes perspective and voice over a dozen times in this book. This is one of the best books to look for craft in general, narrative distance, a perspective, just voice in general. It's a master's class. If there's only one book that you are sort of inspired to go, check out from your local library, I recommend this one, A Visit from the Goon Squad. So he is describing somebody else. We get a sense of what his job is. He's a reporter. He's trying to get this story out of a teenage girl, but he's not having much luck. Here's the problem also is he kind of sounds a bit jaded. So he's judging his subject, and that's not what you're supposed to do, right? Right? All right, let's do, we're going to read some of that later. So let's come over. Well, it can't hurt. There's never anything there's no such thing as too much Love Grossman. This is The Magicians. He had to sprint to make it to the bathroom before he threw up, at which point a massive gravitational field gripped him and pressed him roughly and irrevocably down against the grimy bathroom floor, as if a giant had slapped him down with his mighty hand, and then, when he was down far enough, leaned on him with all of his weight, smushing him down into the cool, dirty tiles. It's another run-on sentence. Maybe, I don't know, maybe a little bit of a nod to Ray Bradbury, using lots of compound phrases in order to build up this very, very singular and specific moment. It takes him four lines in order to describe this kid hitting the floor and being smashed down by this mysterious force. So this is a fantasy, this book is, and we're not getting a lot of fantastical pieces. That's okay. It's still a very distinct voice coming through here. All right, here's the last one. This one is a bit more performative, a bit more extreme. This is Gail Carriger. The book is called Soulless. Miss Alexis Terabody was not enjoying her evening. Private balls were never more than a middling amusement for spinsters, and Miss Terabody was not the kind of spinster who could garner even that much pleasure from the event. To put pudding in the puff, she had retreated to the library, only to happen upon an unexpected vampire. So we've got this, I'm going to call it hoity-toity, this kind of Victorian snobbish voice going on. But then we have this amazing twist at the end where, oh no, it too is a fantasy. Can you tell what I read a lot of? I mean, you look at my bookshelf and there's lots and lots of diversity of genres in there. Man, I got to tell you, fantasy Are they just having the most fun over there or what? Just being as fanciful and fantastical and whimsical as they possibly can in order to help be evocative. It's also easier to point to things that are a little bit more extreme in order for us to understand what a voice sounds like. If I had read, I don't know, the top 5 summer beach reads, chances are they all would have sounded very, very, very similar and would not have been so great for our exercise today. All right, so those are my examples, folks. I'm going to do a shared screen for your homework. We're going to keep this one very, very easy. And I do invite you to give the homework a shot. It could be really fun here. So shared screen, here we go. Module number 1, homework. So my invitation to you is to find 3 stories in your medium. So that's going to be fiction or creative nonfiction or screenwriting. And by the way, yes, creative nonfiction, which is pretty much most of the fiction that gets sold these days, unless you're doing, a how-to sort of book or business book. Those tend to read very straightforward. You're just getting out of the way of the information. I gotta tell you, most of the stuff that is selling right now in the nonfiction world is the creative nonfiction. So it's a fusion of the fiction stuff, the drama of it all. You're telling a story and you're using a lot of storytelling devices, a lot of narrative devices, and bringing it into your nonfiction. Anyway, so find what your medium is. And this all applies for screenwriting as well. I always tell my students that even though it's only your crew that ever reads your screenplay, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be using all of these tools in the writing of your script, because the point is we're here to be storytellers and you want to be as evocative as you possibly can. And this is where voice comes in. All right, so find 3 stories in your medium. Any 3 stories that you in books, whatever you got, short stories, what have you. So voices that you admire. This, if you're in creative nonfiction, maybe these are the columns on your favorite Substacks, what have you. But voices that you admire. So again, we're not talking about subject matter here. We're talking about, wow, like sometimes you just have to stop and reread a sentence because you're like, oh, and you just have to savor it for a moment. So find those examples, and give it a read and see if you can, I don't know, start explaining to yourself what it is that thrills you about the sound of that writer's voice. And then the writing exercise I'd like you to do is to pick one of those voices, or I don't know, maybe one of the voices from this video. I told you what the books are from, and even the little pieces that I gave you should be enough for you to kind of, jump on board, pick up where they left off. Yeah, and mimic it. Try to write in the style of those writers. Just a few paragraphs, unless you're having fun and go to town, write however much you want. But the point here is we're trying to figure out like what you most easily slip into. The thinking is that you would pick a voice that you would naturally be drawn to, or who knows, maybe you want to torture yourself a little bit and pick a voice that's really hard for you to do just so you can have that experience. I absolutely endorse that too. There's also like, a process behind of why you chose that particular voice. So just trying to figure out like, why'd you pick that voice? Like what drew you to it? Was it easy for you to slip into, or was it hard? And why? Can you figure out like why you were able to connect with it so easily? And then, the big question is this a voice that would be appropriate for what you're working on? And hey, if not, I mean, Ray Bradbury, I don't know. That's a pretty distinct and specific kind of voice that's not going to fit, that list of summer reads, at the beach I was just talking about. I don't think Ray Bradbury would be quite right for that, but I don't know. Actually, wouldn't that be fun? See, now I want to go write that just so I could go write the quintessential Ray Bradbury beach read that takes place on some desolate small island in England, I think. Anyway, hey. Is the voice right for your book? Because it is a-okay to draft what other people are doing, just so you can start, getting the sensation into your body of what it feels like to write in a more exaggerated voice than what perhaps you were working with on your own. And if it's not, that's okay. But is there anything that you can take from this, what that writing was, that you can bring to your own? I'm also on this. If you're just listening to this, folks, there is a frame that I've captured on the video, where I'm also listing out the homework, but I'm also listing out the short stories to study for voice. Yeah, these are, when I was doing my MFA, these are the stories that absolutely blew my mind. So I'm going to hand this list off to you all, and I don't know, go have some fun with it. Alrighty, y'all. Tell you what, I will list it just for those who don't have access to the video. So Bullet in the Brain, The Secret Goldfish, The Harvest by Amy Hempel, War Dances, Sherman Alexie, How to Talk to Your Mother by Lori Moore, Emergency by Dennis Johnson, Holy Toledo. Jealous Husband Returns in Form of Parrot. Comedy. It's right there in the title. And A Real Doll by A.M. Holmes. So go have some fun. And all four of the modules should be listed. You are free to do these at your own, your own pace here. The next one's going to be a little bit more detailed. So brace yourselves, and we'll see you over there in module 2. Thanks, y'all.